أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we will start with 23rd word, and this is the second chapter of the 23rd word. We could also start from the first chapter as well, but the second chapter as a whole, I guess, it's a great section, and like from the beginning to the end, I guess it serves very well to our purpose, studying to be human. So if nobody has any objections, this is what we are planning to study, start studying this week, inshallah. Again, 23rd word, the second chapter.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we are reading from the 23rd word, second chapter. And this is including the 5 remarks with respect to man's happiness and misery. So just underneath the chapter introduction, it says, since man has been created on the most excellent of patterns and has been given most comprehensive abilities. So man has been created on the most excellent of patterns and has been given most comprehensive abilities. He has been cast into an arena of trial and examination, in which he may rise or fall to stations, ranks and degrees, from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, from the earth to the divine throne, and from minute particles to the sun. So man has been cast into an arena of trial and examination, in which man may rise or fall to stations, ranks, and degrees, from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, from the earth to the divine throne, and from minute particles to the sun. He has been sent to this world as a miracle of divine power, the result of creation, and a wonder of divine art, before whom have been opened 2 roads, leading either to infinite ascent or infinite descent. So 2 roads leading either to infinite ascent or infinite descent. We shall explain the mystery of this awesome progress and decline of man's in 5 remarks. First remark. Man stands in need of most of the varieties of beings in the universe. Man stands in need of most of the varieties of beings in the universe and is connected to them. His needs spread through every part of the world, and his desires extend to eternity. So the needs spread through every part of the world. However, the desires extend to eternity. As he wants a flower, so he wants the spring. As he desires a garden, so does he also desire everlasting paradise. As he longs to see a friend, so does he long to see the all-beauteous one of glory. Just as in order to visit one he loves, who lives somewhere else, he is in need for his beloved's door to be opened to him. Just as in order to visit one he loves who lives somewhere else, he is in need for his beloved's door to be opened to him. So too, in order to visit the 99% of his friends who have traveled to the intermediate realm, and so be saved from eternal separation, he needs to seek refuge at the court of an absolutely powerful one. For it is he, capital H, he, who, capital W, who, for it is he who will close the door of this huge world and open the door of the hereafter, which is an exhibition of wonders. Remove this world and establish the hereafter in its place. Thus, for man in this position, the only true object of worship will be one in whose hand are the reins of all things, with whom are the treasuries of all things, who sees all things and is present everywhere. The only true object of worship will be one in whose hand are the reins of all things, with whom are the treasuries of all things, who sees all things and is present everywhere, who is beyond space, exempt from impotence, free of fault, and far above all defect, an all-powerful one of glory, an all-compassionate one of beauty, an all-wise one of perfection. O man, if you are the slave of him alone, if you are the, worshiper of him alone, you will earn a place superior to all creatures. But if you hold back from this servitude to him, you will become an abased slave to impotent creatures. If you rely on your ego and own power, and abandoning reliance on God and supplication, deviate into pride and boasting, then you will fall lower than an ant or bee in regard to goodness and creation, and become weaker than a spider or a fly. You will become heavier than a mountain in regard to evil and destruction. You will become heavier than a mountain in regard to evil and destruction, and more harmful than a pestilence. I don't know what pestilence is. If anybody knows, please let me know. Okay, is this where we stop, or the next one also?
I guess that's enough for now. Jazakallah khair. Thank you, Asim. Thanks a lot. Asman just reminded me that maybe it is better to read the verse, which is at the beginning of the first chapter. Maybe we should read the verse as well. So I will read it, inshallah. And let's keep this verse from Quran in our minds while discussing.
So we are discussing the verse, right?
Yes, because all we read and we will read will be interpretation of this verse. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Indeed, we have created men on the most excellent of patterns. Indeed, we have created men on the most excellent of patterns. Then sent him down to the lowest of the law, except those who believe and do good deeds. Then sent him down to the lowest of the law, except those who believe and do good deeds. So these are the ayahs from Quran. This is Surah 95 and ayahs 4, 5, and 6. So again, inshallah, keep these ayahs in mind while discussing.
Are we going to start discussing now?
We will go and start discussing now, yes.
Can we start?
Go ahead, please, yes.
Actually, whenever I heard the translation of this verse, I'd always think it's really weird that he says, then send him down to the lowest of the low. That I always found that odd because he creates us. So he creates us in the most excellent of patterns, and then he sends us down. It's not like we fall down or we don't live up to expectations or something. He sends us down. I always found that part, it always caught my attention. I was just wondering why it was specifically that way.
Do you want to also make some comments on that yourself, or
No,
just leave it as a question?
That was a question.
Okay.
I'd like to hear your comments or other comments.
Qasim want to say something, I guess. Go ahead, Qasim, please.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yeah, I think it's important to read that verse in its entirety. For example, if my memory serves me correct, it says he sends him or man down to the lowest of the low, except he who believes and I guess does good deeds, right? So the condition is there, except he who believes. If I was to understand this verse in its entirety, or I guess in its complete form, I would say it's not, in a way, it's not the Creator that's sending me down, but rather myself that's choosing to go down by perhaps not believing. And one can further dive into what it means to be not believing. And, I guess if I was to elaborate on my understanding of what it means to not believe, it basically means the one who does not, pay attention or mind to their reality. So anyone who is basically not accepting their reality is automatically subjecting or putting themselves in a situation where they're unable to perhaps benefit from their existence, and that in that state that one would, I guess, be in or exist in is perhaps defined as the lowest of the low. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Jazakallah khair. Adnan, you were saying something. I chose Qasim over you. Sorry, go ahead, please.
I have a question for Abdurrahman. Do you see contradiction between the first and the second verse when he says, like, we have created man on the most excellent of patterns and then sent him down to the lowest of the low? Is that why, I guess I was trying to understand your question.
So my question is, it seems very specifically written that, so what you said is also something, but the thing that really catches my attention is, then we send him down to the lowest of the low, except those who believe. So I understand there's an except there, but I could have, to give an example, I could have said, then man fell to the lowest of the low, not sent down. And I feel there should be a very explicit reason, or maybe a hidden reason, why he says sent, or God says sent down to the lowest of the low. As you could have just been fallen to the low. I don't know.
Okay.
I think this is a great point. Inshallah, we will discuss this. We also have Faraz with us. He's kind of expert on such stuff.
On the subject.
Inshallah, we will benefit from his ideas as well, just like others. Qasim, you want to say something? I seen your raising hand for a moment, I guess.
Sorry, I just wasn't sure if we were going to study this further or were we going to move to something else. But I was just going to elaborate on, again, that part where it says, then, I guess, send him down. I guess if I was to use an analogy, the way I understand that, again, is, if someone gives me like, oh, here's a guidance or here's some direction to how you can go get to the coffee shop. And if I misinterpret that, that direction, again, this is where the circumstances are, like, except for those who believe, right? So it's like, if I misinterpret the directions, I will not get to the coffee shop. I will, I guess, I don't know, end up somewhere else. And then by definition, it will look like as if the guide itself is what guided me wrong. But at the end of the day, everything ends up boiling down to my perception and, or perhaps a misuse of my ability to perceive something. So just wanted to say that. That was it. Sorry.
Yeah, I can also add something because, in the first phrase, like, we have created man. I think we need to focus on the created part because most of the time we don't really see that we are created. And that makes, at least in my life, or at least in my way of living, I see that it's really important to realize that. And then I will go to the most excellent of patterns. I would ask, okay, is there a excellent of patterns? What is that? So I have been created and I have been made with the most excellent of patterns. So I would question that. Wow, what is that, and why is that? And if I realize this excellence of pattern in my being, then definitely, if I realize the value at least, then I will know that these patterns that have been given to me, if they are not used, then yeah, definitely, that's how the going to the lowest of the low will happen. If I don't come to this awareness of that I am created, one, and then that I am created in a particular way, that I have been given things and these are excellent of patterns, which I have to discover and realize. And from there, I can go and proceed and see that the next phrase would come, okay, so how can I fall into the lowest of the low? I mean, because this is a sort of guidance for me. This particular verse is talking to me. That's how I have to see it.
Oh, thank you, Asim. I want to highlight a few words Asim used, like guidance and being created and having excellent patterns. Plus, I wanted to highlight these words.
Can I ask a question?
You want to say something? Sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead. Yes.
So what does excellent pattern refers? Like, obviously, like, we have created man on the most excellent of patterns. So the creator is speaking to me and I'm listening to this speech, and I look at myself and I see myself like going through destruction every single moment. So where is the excellence in that? So like, what does that refer to?
Good question. I don't know if it matters or not, but when you think about the original, actually it's not like we created man of excellent patterns, right? It says we created man in the excellent form.
In the best form.
Yeah, in the best form. So I just want to say, because when we say of the excellent patterns, it sounds as if, I'm human, and then I am given some excellent tools. But when we say we created man in the excellent form or in the best form, so man itself, himself or herself, becomes the locus of the excellence somehow. So things becomes more internalized, I guess.
So then the question is like, in the best form for what?
That's the question. I guess we should be guided towards the discussions, inshallah. Through the discussion.
I think it's a very, very nice question. I'm caught with that question. Maybe the work itself is being highlighted. I think it makes sense to me when I use that kind of expression, like best form. What is the best form? The work is in its best form, or the work is being glorified in that in those words. So as I focus on the work, the existence, it is suggesting me that I will see something extraordinary. I will be surprised with the work. This is how I understood from the verse and with the question over that verse, actually.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So maybe for the last time, please keep in mind the ayahs that we just try to decipher, and also keep in mind the questions that we raised. Probably they will guide us through the discussions, inshallah. Another question?
Not question, but maybe just an highlight. Maybe it's going to be repetition, but so the subject is human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we are studying. What it means to be a human being. And obviously, it's like this topic was chosen for that reason. And the verse talks about man being in the most excellent pattern. So like when the speech of the creator tells me that, like I should take that and look into myself to see what exactly that statement refers to in my own nature. If we are to discover what it means to be a human being, I guess.
Yes, good point. When I was talking about the topic previously, a few weeks ago, maybe, Brother Ali, he corrected me, like personally. He said, maybe you shouldn't say being a human, but you should say to be human. So that was his suggestion. He said the topic should be not being a human, but to be a human. So I really liked it because maybe I got it wrong. I don't know what he was exactly referring, but together with what you just said, I guess our point should be understanding. After all these discussions, we should have an understanding of what it takes to be a human. Like, how can we fulfill our purpose? Because when you say to be human, it sounds like, there's a purpose, there's a goal that you want to reach, and this is what you are trying, reaching this goal. And with this word, with the verse as well, it says, we created human in the best form. So when I look at myself and I see some deficiency in me, I say, maybe, I still have some, like a journey before me to be a human.
And when you look into your own nature, examine yourself, I should be able to confirm the truthness of the statement.
So if there are no other comments or questions, I suggest reading the first part again.
Let's keep reading. He will explain later.
Since man has been created on the most excellent of patterns. So he starts with a claim, but just to be fair, he already discussed what it means, at least to some extent, being created on the most excellent pattern in the previous chapter, but following his own style, methodology, he usually writes, at least this is the way I understand, he usually writes the chapters independently, like they stand by themselves as well when you read them. You want to say something? Oh, sorry. Since man has been created on the most excellent of the patterns and has been given most comprehensive abilities, he has been cast into an arena of trial and examination in which he may rise or fall to stations, ranks, and degrees, from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, from the earth to the divine throne. From the earth to the divine throne. And from minute particles to the sun. So it says, man created in on the most excellent of patterns and has most comprehensive abilities. I guess we can question this part.
Yeah, just also the word, I think, and can be substituted for that is in most of his notes he's writing when he tries to put a statement like most excellent of patterns and he uses and, it means that he's explaining that what that excellent of patterns means, that man has been given most comprehensive abilities. Just something that I was told by Dr. Ali one time.
Thank you. Very excellent point indeed. So you already start to prove us that human beings are created in the most excellent patterns. Thank you, awesome. Great point. Yes. So man has been created on the most excellent of the patterns, and he says that he has been given most comprehensive abilities. He has been cast into an arena of trial and examination, which he may rise from one station to another. So what do you think about this part? Like, you have most comprehensive abilities, you are in the arena of trial and examination. Is this the way we perceive the reality, our lives? Oh, Qasim, go ahead, please.
So I had a comment / question, and anyone can, I guess, give their thoughts on it. So it's interesting that the author, says like he has been cast into an arena of trial and examination. Whenever I hear the words trial or examination, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what am I being examined on, right? Like, what am I being tried on, or what am I being tested on? And I know in the past we often, in the past we often replace that form of language with like, okay, it's not a trial, it's a training. But if one was to look at it as a trial and an examination, and I guess like if one was to dive deeper into that, the first question that comes to my mind is that before I am tried or tested or examined on anything, I have to be taught something as well. And like, I have to know the subject matter before I'm tested on the subject. And perhaps knowing in this, I guess, example isn't to know it in its entirety or to know something in its absolute sense, but perhaps it is the ability to know, right? So it's like, if I'm, I guess, if I have the ability to feel two things like hot and cold, and someone is examining me by putting a glass of water in front of me and asking me, is it hot or cold? Then I don't necessarily need to know that. I guess I don't necessarily need to know that the water is hot or cold beforehand. But since I have the ability to recognize that, that in itself, can be considered an examination. Because of this ability to recognize, I can be examined day one. So this is like a comment, but I would love to know if anyone has any thoughts on this. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, thanks a lot. Anybody want to say something? Anyone from our online participants? Yeah, go ahead, please, Faraz.
Yeah. So I think I'm just going to repeat what Qasim said as a comment/question. And maybe this is something that will come up. And I'm sorry I missed the first part of the discussion, so I'm sort of jumping in. So apologize for saying something again. Or this, what Qasim said, this idea of trial and examination presumes or should presume that there is something that is being examined or is legitimately can be legitimately examined. So I think we should ask if there is a connection between comprehensive abilities and my affirmation of this claim, my witnessing to the truth of this idea that I indeed find myself with comprehensive abilities, is something that becomes the basis for any kind of trial or examination. So maybe we want to think about trial and examination. What is a trial? An example of a trial or examination. And when I think about it, a trial and examination, I always think of something that lacks, something. So I want to be together with something, but that is far away. So that's a trial. Or I want to attain something that is good or beautiful, and I'm not able to, or I have something good and I lose it. So there's always something goes missing. I want life and there is death. So life went missing, and that's a trial. And this idea that I can recognize or feel something as a trial or examination, unless I take it as just that's how I am naturally. But if I put it to the question and say, how come is it possible for me to feel the loss or lack of something beautiful? How is it possible that I perceive or feel a lack of wisdom? How could I possibly perceive or feel a lack of wisdom unless I say or affirm that I already have in me, I already know wisdom, let's say, in a way that its lack becomes apparent to me. So that if I didn't know comprehensive wisdom, I shouldn't be able to feel the lack if that was the only thing I knew. So, if I, for example, if I drink, chocolate milk and there's no sugar in it, so I notice it very quickly. Because why? Because I have it, and I can say it's not sweet enough. So that's my trial. It's not sweet enough. But if I say, so how come it's not sweet enough? It means I know sweetness more than what I find in the cup, and therefore I see the lack there. So my comment, as usual, became longer than it should have been. So anyway, it's simply saying again what Qasim was saying, but the relationship between me being in an arena of trial and examination, if I think, think backwards and say, so the possibility of trial and examination can only arise if I affirm the existence of comprehensive abilities. Otherwise, there couldn't be any possibility of me experiencing something that I could call a trial or examination. So anyway.
Thanks a lot, Faraz.
I think for me, if we read the first part of the paragraph together with the second part of the paragraph and pointing out the comprehensive abilities and also the trial and examination, okay? What that refers to, trial and examination, if man is in such a nature that has endless abilities, and if this is the form that he is created, then the trial and examination is there to reach out to the full potentials of those abilities. And the process that you are going to reach your full potentials is the trial and examination. That's what I understand from it. Mm-hmm. So in other words, what it refers to is for man to understand his own nature and abilities and explore his limits and use those faculties and the abilities, or to be able to use those faculties and abilities. That's process of learning how to use those abilities is the trial and examination.
Like trial and error, right?
Say it again, sorry?
Like trial and error, trial and examination.
That is in the process as well, I think.
I want to go back to what Farah said, that the very fact that we can feel ourselves, we can find ourselves in a trial or examination. Because this is how I live my life, right? Like every day is a trial for me. Even if you are heedless, even if you are not thinking about anything, just living your life, like most of the time we do, you find yourself in a trial. You have to deal with things, even on the surface level. You have to deal with your boss. You have to deal with your friends. You have to deal with your family. You have to deal with your children. So as if like constantly you are being tested. It doesn't matter whom you attribute this test or trial. You can attribute it to your children, to your wife, to your boss. Doesn't matter. But you feel that you are being tested. Like we sometimes even articulate it, right? We say, are you testing me? Like, are you testing my nerves? But even this heedless state, like even when you are not attributing this rich creation to the Creator, the fact that you are angry, or the fact that you are upset, or the fact that you are not happy, or the fact that you are being challenged, and the fact that you are feeling this challenge itself is so amazing. I guess we lose this amazement as we get, let's say, educated. This is human. Human feel anxious, human feel depressed, human feel tested. These are the mechanisms like we are taught. So as we taught, as things get ordinary for us, I guess, we lose sense of amazement. But once we realize that I can feel being challenged. Like, forget about solving the challenge itself, just realizing that you are being challenged and you feel being challenged, and that should be the first step of awakening. Because then you realize, as author says, he has been sent to this world as a miracle of divine power. As a human with these feelings, with these senses, I am sent to the world as a miracle of divine power. It's not something ordinary. It's a miracle that I can feel something. It's a miracle that I have a capacity to be upset or happy. The result of creation, he says. So whatever I have in me, the feeling of being challenged is as well being created. So I cannot take it ordinary. You cannot take yourself ordinary. You cannot take whatever you have ordinary. They are miracle of divine power. They are being created. And he continues, and the wonder of divine art. Like, things becomes so beautiful. Like, whatever you have, you are first taking it as just a challenge. Again, my friend Yusuf, challenging me, doing something which I hate. At the beginning, it was that way. But then, the relationship between Yusuf and me, the feelings I have, they become an artful creation. Like, who's doing this? Who's creating all these challenges in front of me? Who's giving me this feeling of being challenged? And I guess when we take it in that way, going back to Abdurrahman's question, when he said, we sent men to the laws of the Lord, right? Just like we gave him the feeling of being challenged. We gave him the feeling of sadness. It's not there by itself. We created it. So if man finds himself in the lowest of the low for some reason, it is us creating this feeling. It is us creating this reality in front of him. He's not going from A to B. We are creating him going from A to B. If he sees B as the lowest of the low, yes, it is us. Send him to the B, which is lowest of the low. So I guess so this sentence, I really, really like it when I first read. Like, he has been sent to this world as a miracle of divine power. He's not trying to write a poem. Like, whatever you are studying, is it your feeling? Is it your state? Is it your look? How tall you are? Doesn't matter. It's a miracle of divine power. First realize this. Then it is created. You are not that tall. You are created that tall. You see the difference? And then a wonder of divine art. See how it is related to everything else. Like, it's not just a color. It's not like a point, a colorful point. It's a part of a painting, a picture. Like your height, your feelings, your hatred, your love, it's a part of a painting. You're not just a dot. It's art. Once you realize that, then you start questioning yourself. Like, wow, I am being challenged by, I guess he will explain, by one who created all these universe. So there must be a purpose there. What is my purpose? Where am I going to? What is my goal? What is my target? Then it makes sense, such questions, right? Otherwise, you are just a dot in the middle of nowhere. You don't have any meaning yourself. But once you become part of the painting, you have the meaning of the entire painting in you. Then such questions like, what is my purpose? Where am I going to? Then they start becoming valid questions for you. You have them in you. Once you realize that you are a miracle, you are not something ordinary. You are a miracle of the divine power. You are being created. You are part of an art. So thank you, Faraz. Thank you for highlighting this fact.
I guess the reason that the question that Abdurrahman posed, so we are getting disturbed since lowering down is something bad and it is being done by the creator as if out of my choice. This is disturbing, right? This is the part that makes us disturbed. Because if I were to fall by myself, then it was going to be my choice, then I was going to fall down. But as if I read the verse on the surface, it sounds like he raises me up, he casts me down, so why am I going to be responsible? Because I am experiencing the pain out of this, or the suffering out of this lowering of status. But now if we read the verse as was being discussed as the education, so I am in here to learn through this training, then also lowering down is part of my training. Because, for example, if I was a naughty child and my father was treating me the same way, no matter what I do. If I was doing things right, he was giving me, treating me properly. Even if I was becoming naughty and breaking things up, still he was treating me the same way. So I wouldn't learn anything in this case. So it's better whenever I do some naughty behavior, he is going to treat me in a different way so that I'm going to learn my lesson, saying that what I did is wrong. So him responding me in a different way when I do misproper behavior is also part of the education. So in this case, lowering down to lowest of the low is, first of all, it's not a natural result. This is an important part of it. And the second is it's also part of the education. Because through this lowering, I realize that I did something wrong. So that this time I will ask for them raise me up back. You are the one that creates me in the state. You are the one that teaches me. It's not me who learns. It's you who teaches. And this lowering and raising up is again for the purpose of teaching. Then I'm going to assume the status of a student and leave him the leading part and the teaching part. Because otherwise I would say, well, if I don't care, I don't get to the lesson. I don't get to the class. So this is the arrogant student style. Say that, okay, he is the one that teaches, but it is me if I would like to go to the class. If I don't want, I will get out of the class by myself and behave as I wish. And he has to give me the credits or the note because I am paying for this school. And this is the arrogant student style. But this is not how it is in the existence. So he is the one style. So he is the one that raises you up. He is the one that takes you down as I am, according to my attitude towards him or towards the education. So lowering down in this case is, again, just to emphasize, part of the education. It is good in this sense because it helps me to step back and learn. Otherwise, I wouldn't learn anything.
I have to respectfully disagree with Yusuf. Can I?
Of course, go ahead, please. You don't have to be respectful.
You want excitement? If I am to understand those verses, like in the light of this paragraph that we just read, so this second verse, when he says we sent him down to the lowest of the low, I think that verse refers to or alludes to the fact that every single thing is being created by God, and that state, whatever that lowest of the low state, that is also his creation. So that is not out of like his will, or that's not out of his power. I think that verse refers to that on the like existential level. That's what it refers to. But when it comes to understanding those three verses all together, so like man is created in the excellent pattern, then it is sent down to the lowest of the low, except those who believe and do good deeds. So in this paragraph, he talks about the comprehensive nature of the man that has the ability, comprehensive abilities, and then he talks about like endless ranks that can go from the earth to the divine throne. And then he talks about like the examination and trial, and then he talks about mystery of awesome progress and decline. So if you combine all those like together, what I understand is man has that like nature that can take both ways in terms of understanding himself with his nature first, and as a result of that, understanding the universe, the reality of the universe, or the creator himself. But going down to the lowest of the low is man's his own choice. It is not like something like, oh, there is this trial and tribulation, so like this guy has to really like, it has to be beaten up like a little bit so he will come to his senses. So let's give him some sort of like punches. I don't understand in that sense. So like, again, like it is up to man to make the decision to use those comprehensive abilities, which is in this case like the explanation of what being in the absolute, like the best form is, to either in terms of his understanding and consciousness, like an understanding of the reality, making that progress, or not using those abilities and letting them rotten, or not being even aware of those like abilities, whatever they are. And that state of like man that comes at the end of the life, that state that you come to if you didn't discover any ability, and if you are not able to really make sense of like any of the like faculties that you have in a way that's meaningful for you, and there is some truth in it, then that is the lowest of the low that one can reach at the end of his life. And that is the state that is created by the creator, but it is upon man's own will and asking.
Oh, before answering, Asim was trying to say something first. Do you mind if I give the mic to Asim first?
Sure.
Thank you. He was trying like for a while.
No, thank you. So I think Osman covered it. So I was going back to the trial and examination part. So I think Qasim's point was very good about that. You know, like we use mostly training. I think that's the correct word from what I feel. Because it feels like the way in the civilization.
I think he lost connection, or Faraz did something because he was trying to get the mic. So Faraz, you can go then. It's your turn.
Okay, so when Asim comes back, please give the mic to him. I was just going to say that we shouldn't postpone to the end of life anything, you know, low or high. At any given moment, I think I need to pause and say, how is it possible that I can experience a trial or a suffering or an examination? Or how is it possible that I find myself in a situation of lowliness as far as I understand as a human being? You know, there's some things that mentioned in Revelation that just assumes people will understand, things like good, or, what is right, or what is, and as a human being, I, like Birkan, you were saying in the beginning, I think I need to ask this question because that's where my naturalism, resides. I don't claim to be naturalist, but I live as if, things are natural. So, how is suffering possible? People who didn't ask this question or thought you couldn't ask this question because they took human existence for granted. Human existence, human being, its senses, these are all natural biological facts. We can't ask, how is suffering possible? How is need possible? And I think in order to establish for myself some degree of confidence that I truly have comprehensive abilities, and for me, it also ties back to, God taught Adam the names. So how do I know that I have been taught the names with a capital N? And the way I can confirm this is because I know the names without having taught myself, because I'm able to see. One of the ways I see it is because I notice or experience the lack of it. I know beauty with a capital B because whenever a beautiful thing passes, I'm able, or its beauty fades, or when I think the beauty is fading, then I grieve, my heart grieves, or there's loss, a sense of loss, and it tells me that it means that it must be that I know beauty, let's say with a capital B, or absolute or sacred beauty, so that I mourn the fading, if I imagine that it is fading away. And so, yeah, I think the possibility of suffering, which has to be questioned, and I have to tie that to the idea that, yes, I have comprehensive abilities. I have been given. I didn't give them myself, so clearly somebody gave them comprehensive abilities. These are not something that I don't witness. They are not something that I take for granted. This is evident in the fact that trial or loss is possible. And this loss and trial as a human being cannot be either it is a chance, natural occurring, but how is that possible unless I say everything is by chance? And if it is not, then the possibility of trial points to absolute comprehensive abilities. And so anyone who ever has discussed loss or suffering, I don't care who they were, Nietzsche is the biggest example of the person who suffered at the highest level, in terms of recognizing how tragic the human condition was, or many other philosophers. So anyone who pointed out the tragedy, the poets and the other of existence, I take them to be witnessing to the existence of comprehensive abilities. So it must, for me, it's very, that's the mistake, that's rather, instead of saying mistake, one could then say that as Nietzsche himself said, he wished, he longed for a teacher. He said, I wish I could find someone that I could obey, that I could find to have something deeper than what I have come up with. And he longed and longed for it, and he wrote. So insofar as he was in recognizing the tragedy and therefore implicitly affirming the existence of comprehensive abilities in human beings, this is something that we can look at our experience and confirm to be true. And so that, the trial and examination is a necessary component of coming to recognize that I have comprehensive abilities. It is not possible otherwise to confirm that I have comprehensive abilities. So I'm done.
Asim, do you want to continue from where you left?
Yeah, I don't remember where I left, but thank you. For us, that was good. So I was saying my point was about the trial and examination, because normally we think that there is some God sitting there on the throne and he's looking down on us and say, hey, you Asim, go and, this is a test for you. Make sure you pass that test. That's not the kind of relationship, at least, that one should have, I feel. Because the way he's using this in the sentence, he says, man has been cast into an arena of trial and examination, which means that man has been cast into this, has been given an existence in the universe. And there's every stage of the whatever man goes through in life, every moment, every different experiences man faces. It's not that these experiences it's like a test for him or a challenge for him, no, by somebody else, someone external, but it is within the man himself, that since he has been given certain qualities, certain characteristics, certain abilities, that is the challenge for man himself. It is man's challenge. And it is man's trial and examination if these abilities are being used or exercised. But mostly what happens is the trial and examination is seen as something like somebody else externally is making sure, hey, you should know this. I already told you. Now you're not passing that. No, that's not the way it is. And that's how the second part of the verse says that when man goes from the lowest to man goes to the lowest of the low, that's because it's on man. Man has been given all these abilities, and it's man himself who would put himself into that position when these abilities are not used or exercised. Yeah, so that was the only part, like not to externalize the creator as somebody who is challenging us, who is examining us, but the world is the way it is set. That's why we are put into this universe the way we are. And we have to question that. Why are we, here, and what am I going to do with all these abilities given to me? That's where I have the challenge in myself, to be able to use these abilities.
Dude, sorry. I don't know why, but I feel when somebody tells me, I don't know, I'm just thinking loudly. If somebody tells me, you have abilities that you have to use, and what is at stake is eternal hell or eternal paradise. And part of me says, why did somebody give me these abilities to use? I didn't ask for them. Why has somebody given me so many abilities and then made me responsible for hell or heaven? Like, it's part of me feels, why did you put me? I didn't ask you to put me in this situation. To use or not to use, and what is at stake is like, I don't want to use anything. I didn't ask for anything to be used. Like, what as if somebody telling me suddenly, you have been granted $1 billion and you are responsible for now spending these $1 billion in the right way, or else you will be thrown in hell. And my first response is to say, please take this $1 billion back. I don't need it. Please take it back. I didn't ask for it. I don't want to take that responsibility. And if you say, no, well, but you have this responsibility now, but that doesn't help me. It was, I just don't want it. So I don't know, maybe the language of when somebody says you have these capacities and you have to use them right, or else you are, I'm like, whoa, I don't know how to use these capacities. I don't know why I should be responsible for what I didn't ask for. And seems like legitimate to me to say that, why should I be burdened with, as if it's a burden, as if like you have these capacities now and you better use them right. And I'm like, so I don't know how I can address that, except for me, like, if I think about it, is that you look at my experience and say, what makes me suffer? What makes me sad? And to go from there to say, oh, is it that I put myself in this situation so that so it's because this shows that I actually need absolute beauty. I need absolute love. It's because I have the capacity actually, and this capacity is pointing to, that there is someone who has taught me this. So for me to affirm the existence of this absolute is what solves me. So so I don't know. It's just a difference of language. I don't think you're saying anything different. It's just a different language of saying, if I speak about in terms of realizing something that I need to realize, then I feel God is on my side. If I feel like here is something that God gave me and I better use it right, I feel suddenly as if, it's, but I didn't ask for this, what's like, it's, I don't know. It's maybe I'm just hung up on, or maybe I feel this way. I don't think anybody is saying anything different, but just the language perhaps just takes me there, and I don't want to go there where I feel like there's capacities that I need to use. Like I need to specify it in it. What does that mean? So that I don't self-accuse myself, like, oh, I just fall into despair of, I don't know.
Thank you. Great points from everyone. Asim, before you, if you don't mind, I want to ask Yusuf, because he was trying to say something, and then I have something to say, if you don't mind.
So yeah, what I was going to say was very briefly, yes, it is with Nietzsche's choice that he didn't want to appreciate the qualities, but with God's mercy that Nietzsche suffered because of his choice. And all the tragedy that he was going through was a wake-up call for him. So he was descended to this state. So it's a existence is given. So his choice was a non-existent choice, meaning that he didn't want to appreciate the meaning in life, in the existence. But to this non-existing choice, and existence was created for him, which was his tragedy, his feeling of this non-existence. And this was out of mercy. And it was part of the education. I mean, he got it, he didn't get it. I mean, just Nietzsche was the example that Fraz gave. So just to give it an example, but in my life, same thing goes. So for example, let's say I keep eating chocolates and I choose not to appreciate the giver of health of my teeth. So if, because of my this lack of appreciation, if God doesn't reduce me in the level, well, he would say, okay, I gave him an opportunity to appreciate health. He didn't appreciate. Well, if he doesn't appreciate, good for him. Nothing in between. But he doesn't do that. He creates the rotting of my tooth out of his mercy, as a wake-up call for me to say that you shouldn't do that. So this radadna part, the lowering, is giving existence as a response to my lack of accepting the truth. So yes, I do it by choice, but he creates the result. It's not a natural outcome of my choice. It is, yeah. I guess you want to continue? There is also a really important part of what you are saying, Yusuf, is when we approach from such a perspective. And also, I guess Faraz was saying something similar maybe, or I got it wrong. I need someone on my side. Like as he was saying, finding God on my side, which is I appreciate. But when I take God as something external, who defines my responsibilities, who defines what is at stake, who defines the outcomes, and I have to follow, and such a creation, such a design is unbearable. But when I take the Creator as my guidance, like that's what I understand from when you say training. Yes, we have some capacities, we make some choices, so on and so forth, but I guess this is just one side of the story. This other side, which is at least as, as important as this part, is I need guidance. I don't want to be left alone. Like I'm giving all these capacities, I'm giving all these potentialities, and if I use them right, I have become happy. If I don't use them right, I suffer. I create my suffering, so on and so forth. If I see myself as being left alone, this is unbearable. Then I start questioning, like, I don't want these capacities, if this is what it means. But together with these capacities, I need also training. I need also, again, quote unquote training. I need also guidance. Who would approach me with mercy, as we were saying. Look, Birkan, you can use these capacities that way. Like it will take you to these stations, to these ranks that you are already willing to reach. Like you want to reach these states, you want to reach these ranks or stations. And here is my guidance. I'm not only giving you a tool and leave you alone. No, I'm with you all the time. With the things you call as suffering, with the things you call as punishment, I'm with you all the time. I'm not leaving you alone. This reminds me some verses from Quran. I guess it's Surah Baqarah. It says, does man think, not word by word translation, sorry for my ignorance, but it says, does man think we will leave him alone? Does he think his sins will not surround him? Such verses like telling me, because you are not alone. Even when you do something bad from your perspective, he will be with you. He will be with you, warning you. He will be with you, showing you the better way. Maybe warning is not even enough. He will be with me to show me a better way that I'm willing to take. So I guess having God with me on my side as a trainer, or as a guidance, I guess you can change the word. To me, this is so important. I also don't want to take it as, yes, man has these capacities and it's his own responsibility. He can choose good, he can choose bad. So if he chooses bad, he deserves suffering. I guess this is still kind of mechanistic to me. And I don't want to be a mechanistic design.
Yeah, I want to just highlight something again. Comprehensive abilities, and for those who are going down to the lowest of the low, unless except the ones who believe. So I want to highlight the words the best pattern and belief. And in the text, when we get there, we can discuss it further in details. In the first paragraph, Nusra talks about what those comprehensive abilities are. And right after that, the very first sentences talks about true object of worship. True object of worship. So there must be some sort of organic relationship between the comprehensive abilities and true object of worship.
Only to
which refers to the, in my mind, refers to the belief. So what does really that mean? Like when it comes to the comments that was made, we all experience certain type of creation and we cannot get out of it, right? And if you put your hand into the fire, it burns and there is pain. That is inevitable. But there is this constant emphasis on the suffering which is related to the man's choice, which I don't think I can really agree with. So pain is inevitable. We are all experiencing it. But suffering is man's own choice, which must be, in this text, somehow related to what those comprehensive abilities are. And whatever the relationship is with the true object of worship, that suffering lays somewhere in between that area that we need to discover.
That's
so when we try to understand the subject, I don't think we can neglect the human free will and its relations to make sense of the experiences that we are going through.
Abdurrahman?
I'm done.
Okay. I have it might be a very obvious question, but I want to ask it. So I like this idea that you're talking, or we need to see Allah as someone with us and who's training us. But my question is, what's He training us for, or what's the end goal? What's the purpose? Yes.
I mean, if you are asking to me, I would. I can, I guess, only repeat what said before. Is my need of absolute beauty, perfection. This is with me. This need is already with me. I want to reach it. And through this training or through this journey, this is where I am taken. I don't take it as something, we will become a better human or we will become stronger. No, I will find what I need. So for you, it could be something else, your need. And whatever you need, you will be taken there. Asim was trying to say something, I prevented him. I'm sorry, Asim. And then Qasim wants to say something. So Asim and then Qasim, inshallah.
That's all right. So now I was thinking about why would somebody not want their abilities? What's the reason when someone would go to that situation where they say, hey, I don't want this. Obviously, I would sense if one ties that to, you are responsible and you are going to go to hell if you don't use them. No, that's not the kind of thing a human being would want, right? I mean, I would think that would lead, I don't know, based on what I'm hearing, some of the comments, I don't really agree with that kind of situation, because we are tying in like an example of heaven and hell, and then relating that to the way we are created, our human side, the way our human abilities are. And obviously there's a misunderstanding, again, I would say, in the persons who reasons that way, that, if I don't use them, I'm going to go to hell. There's, again, a problem of relationship understanding, something God as being somebody external rather than somebody who I have to associate my being to, right? Feeling the sense of creation. I mean, seriously, ask anyone, would somebody want to lose their sense of taste, for example, their sense of love, their sense of feelings, their sense of hearing, their sight? Is there anybody who would want to lose these abilities? So that's what I mean, it's a very big jump. Again, there's, like, as Osman was saying, human free will is definitely in the abilities is involved, and it always comes and in the picture to make a choice. That's how we are made in this world. Yeah, if somebody can clarify how one would go and think that they don't want their abilities and not be responsible in some sense, please share that with me.
So I guess I'll go next. So this is probably my comment to the question that was asked earlier, as well as perhaps I think it also addresses, to a certain extent, the question that Asim asked. Just to rephrase, if I'm understanding this correctly, the question at hand here is that, like, why am I, like, what am I being trained for? Or perhaps, like, why am I in the situation where I have these abilities, and why am I being examined to a certain extent? And I think to Asim's question, like, which human being would, I guess, be okay with perhaps losing these abilities? So one thing that really stood out to me, I wanted to share with everyone, because this helped me understand things to a greater extent. And that's basically that you cannot have desire for anything without experience. And if I'm looking at everything through my lens, through my perception, I cannot say, I guess I cannot just start off with saying I am being tested, but rather I have to say I am in a situation where I have the ability to, or I've been given the ability to perhaps, go about executing things, and it seems challenging to me. It seems like a test to me. It seems like a training to me. And the very fundamental fact of, like, okay, I am a created being, that I have been given existence. For me, the fact that I exist, it starts the notion of experience. And the moment I experience something, that's where it leads to either want or unwant. And obviously there's a very fine line between what one needs and what one wants. But if I was to use an analogy, I can never ever desire vanilla ice cream had I not tasted vanilla ice cream before. You cannot desire something you have not experienced. It's just impossible. And if one says I desire something which I have not experienced, it's more speculative for me, at least. So I think if one was to, sorry, my comments going long, but if one was to, again, start with the fact that, okay, I exist and therefore I experience, not on my own, obviously I've been given these abilities to experience, I've been given existence. And through this experience, like, let's say, again, I'll use the analogy, if I find myself in an ice cream shop and someone gives me vanilla ice cream, before I jump to the conclusion, like, why was I put in an ice cream shop, or why was I given vanilla ice cream? The first question or first fact that comes to my mind is, like, I really like vanilla ice cream, right? And that's what allows me to start questioning it further. It's like, what was the point in me having this vanilla ice cream? Like, why was I put in this situation where I experienced it? And I think the more you approach it from, again, our perspective, to say, all I know is in my creation or in my created form, I like vanilla ice cream and I want more of it. And like I again confirm my reality that I am not the one creating that vanilla ice cream. I am not the one creating my existence. I find myself in this situation. And my reality or my maximum conclusion reaches this, I guess, confirmation or acknowledgement that I want this, that I desire this. I won't debate too much about whether I need it or I want it. I think that could be a separate topic itself, and I've not given it too much thought. But anything, I think, beyond that point where I think one starts to say, okay, why was I put in this situation? Like, that starts to become speculative. I think I definitely think it's worth questioning, as it leads to interesting, I guess, assumptions or theories. But if anything, I think, again, if one was to start with their own perspective, it becomes very factual or real. Thank you.
I just wanted to also quickly add, I guess, in relation to what Brother Faraz and Birkan and Asim and even Qasim said, I think my potential not wanting of my abilities looks to my inexplicit and internalized belief that I cannot use my abilities to achieve whatever it is that is meant to be achieved. So if I'm given $1 million and they say use it in this way, otherwise you will suffer forever, I think in my saying, because I was asking myself the same questions that Brother Faraz brought up, I think in my saying that, I never asked for this responsibility, I never asked for this burden, is a belief of saying a denial of my potentiality or a denial of the comprehensive abilities that we've been talking about here. And I think in this denial of my comprehensive abilities is also a denial of being guided, because otherwise if I view myself as saying as being on this as being given this burden, this responsibility, and I have no one to show me the way, versus they give me this ability and I recognize it and they say, hey, it's okay if you make a mistake, we're going to guide you every step of the way, and when you make a mistake, we'll let you know that you've made a mistake, and we know for sure within you that you are able to achieve whatever it is that needs to be achieved. I think that sort of mindset or confirmation of that makes it permissible for human nature to accept or become aware of the fact that they are okay with the responsibility.
Jazakallah khair, everyone. So should we start reading the first paragraph, or you should go ahead, please?
I don't know where my thought takes us to, but I guess it will require more thought anyways. Just I will put the starting part of it. So the question that Abdurrahman asked, as I listened to myself, the same question is there. Why somebody wants to train me? For example, think of it like that. Somebody wakes you up in the middle of night, calls you, or just rings your bell, and comes and gives you a best gift, and says that I am giving this to you because I want you to be richer. You would say, why are you disturbing me in the middle of night? I mean, even if it is for my goodness, I don't want to be disturbed, because you cannot enter my territory, which is at night my house. You are entering to my territory to making good to me.
Without permission.
Without permission, how dare you? I mean, you might be the best, carry good, best intentions, but still you are getting into my territory. This is something that you shouldn't step into. So the other one's good intention is not really solving the problem in this case, as long as I think that I have a personal territory which somebody should not step in. So when Abdurrahman is asking this question and I ask the same question, and I'm feeling like my motivation is I exist. And somebody made me exist, they say, out of my permission. I didn't ask to be existed. This is how I pose the question. Then I say that, how come, why did he bring me into existence? For what reason? And all these are based on the assumption that when I say I exist, I have a right within myself. I have a personal territory, which, I mean, as if, or although it's going to be oxymoron, I have the intention to say that why did he create me without asking me in the first place to create me or not? So all these absurd questions are coming into play because of the position that I take my existence for granted, although I say that I am given existence. And such a contradiction is in there. How to get out of that is another point, another discussion, I guess, because I didn't think about that much. But at least where the question is starting from is this contradiction in terms of my understanding about my own existence.
Can you say that, like, we accept that we were created, but we think we sustain our existence? Do you think there is this, like, fallacy in our, like...
I am created, but now I own my existence. I mean, somebody gave it I didn't make my existence initially, but now it is totally mine. So once somebody gave it to me, as if I am giving you a gift, and now it's becoming yours. If I ask you a favor, whatever, for this gift, or say that, well, can you change this part of that gift? You would say that, how dare you, now it's mine. You cannot ask such a thing. If you were to ask such a thing, why did you give it to me in the first place? This sort of a line of thought. We think like the trust that is given to us is not a trust, but as if it is a gift. Or now it is mine, it's not his anymore. This is why maybe when Quran was talking about humans' ego, it says it is given to you as a trust, not as a gift, or it's not yours, it's not property of yours. It is temporarily on you, but you have to take care of it on the name of its giver, not on your own name. Asking such a question is coming from the idea that it is mine now.
So then going back to sentence, he has been sent to this world as a miracle of divine power, the result of creation and wonder of divine art. So we should apply this to everything. Like even when you start questioning, like why he's doing to me and so on and so forth, this question, the way you question, the ability to question, to ask such a question, is being created in you. Even when you have these oxymoron questions and you suffer, you don't like the creation. It's not liking, it's being created in you. So as the Creator says in Quran, try to escape from my creation.
If you can.
If you can. Right?
I find that very challenging.
Even when you don't like something, this feeling of not liking is being created in you, you should realize that. And when you start questioning, it's actually, I don't know, to me it's so beautiful. I mean, can you imagine, like, you have the ability to think, right? And then you have an ability to think about yourself thinking. Like abstraction over abstraction over abstraction, there is no limit. Such a capacity, alhamdulillah, like, this is so beautiful. It is obvious that it's beyond my control. The fact that I can question, that the fact that I can deny or I can object things, like why you are doing this to me. Such a state, it's so like artful. Try to make it with a computer. Like write your best program, make it to disobey to you. Like, I don't know, what is the word?
Rebel.
Rebel to you. Like the capacity to rebel. So beautiful. It can't be anything but being created.
Freedom is beautiful.
Yes. So I guess we shouldn't forget, even when we are struggling, even when we are trying to rebel, we shouldn't forget the fact that you can rebel is being created in you. It is so beautiful, beyond your imagination.
How should I say this? It seems like since the beginning of the discussion, we have focused so much on the negative aspect of the, I am using that in quotation mark, the negative aspect of human being. And I'm not sure if that's because we have a certain like understanding of trial, tribulation, examination. I'm not sure if it is related to that, but there is a contrast between what we have discussed so far, I feel like, and how he presents the case in the first and the second paragraph. In the first paragraph, he talks about this comprehensive nature in a way that how much the desires we have and how it stretches out to the eternity. So he doesn't really talk about what we lack or what we suffer or how we feel pain. He more talks about how much we want and how much, in a way, we want to achieve, if you like. And somehow, when we get there, I like to hear what people think because I am curious. Somehow he ties that with worship in the second paragraph. And he talks about true object of worship. So like that also tells me that there must be like the worshiping itself is something innate or must be something innate, and it must be related to those like comprehensive nature of man, and it also related to belief and like true object of worship. So like I just wanted to make that I just wanted to highlight that. That's all.
Qasim wanted to say something, I guess, and then after that, let's start reading the first paragraph. We have around 20 minutes, 15 maybe.
Yes, sorry, I've been raising my hand off and on. Wasn't sure if I guess should say this because it's on the fine line of could be speculative, but to the question that Brother Osman asked, I think it's very interesting, right? Like there were two questions that have been raised so far. One, the one that Brother Osman asked, and another one which is like, how come the Creator did not ask me before giving me existence of whether or not I want eternal existence or not? And I think both of them have like this similarity in the sense that I think so. To first answer Brother Usman's question, right? Like the worship and the comprehensive ability. I guess because I started with the fact that I have this ability to recognize, to acknowledge, to perhaps be aware and mindful, confirm the reality that's on the ground, right? And I'm substituting the word worship with all of these other ones that I use, such as acknowledgement. And because I find myself in this situation that, like again, going back to the vanilla ice cream example, like I love this ice cream. I've been made in this position to love it and I want it. And that conclusion results in like, okay, I want this eternal, state of existence where I'm able to experience the vanilla ice cream. And perhaps like, I guess the second speculative comment that I had to the earlier question of, why didn't the Creator just ask me? If this exists, because I guess for a question to exist, it has to be given existence. And this is again speculative to a certain extent. Like, what if this is the question? What if my life right now, my existence is the question? And I'm in this state of where I'm experiencing everything. Like I'm experiencing perhaps the result of the answers that I'm able to choose, right? Like I can say, no, I don't want eternal existence. Don't create me. And the I guess the understanding of what annihilation would make me feel like, or yes, do give me existence, and I want it eternally, and I want to be able to, again, the comprehensive abilities, right? I want to be able to acknowledge and confirm appreciate perhaps the reality, which is, again, that there's an infinite source that's providing me with everything that I could possibly desire. That was it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Just as a side note, I guess when Yusuf articulated this question, he was not asking the question. He was, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Yusuf, but he was giving it as an example of, let's say, the waste of time, that questions. And I guess the emphasis was rather why we ask such questions. Rather than, how to solve such questions, the emphasis is why, at first place, we ask such a questions, or how we can ask such a questions, to give the emphasis that even such questions are being created in you. So, as Osman was saying in the first paragraph, let me read a few sentences, inshallah. Man stands in need of most of the varieties of beings in the universe and is connected to them. I love when he's talking about, the man connected to the reality. Please, I will. Man stands in need of most of the varieties of beings in the universe and is connected to them. His needs spread through every part of the world, and his desires extend to eternity. His needs spread through every part of the world, and his desires extend to eternity. Just as he wants a flower, so he wants the spring. Just as he desires a garden, so does he also desire everlasting paradise. It continues like this, but I want to say something very short and then leave the mic or the right to speak to you. The way I read this, you can take it as a human has all these needs, so weak and so on and so forth. You can put the emphasis there. But the way I read it, it's like it sounds just opposite, as if the man has been given so many things.
So huge potential,
yes,
to be fulfilled.
Exactly. Like, you're not only given, for instance, when he says, just as he wants a flower, so he wants the spring. What I read here is, you're not just giving a flower, you are given the spring. Like, can you imagine that I can enjoy spring? Like, I have a capacity that I can take the spring in me, the entire spring. I can enjoy it. I can enjoy every aspect of the spring. Tell me something, I will show you that I have a corresponding talent or corresponding capacity in me which fits with this. The smell, the color, like the touch of the wind, the sounds you hear, the romantic relationships that you experience in front of you, the birds, the animals, the flower and sun, all of them can fit in you. Not fit, but
correspond.
Like, you can take them in you. Like, you have such a gap in you. Even if the entire spring won't be enough, you can take it, it won't be enough to fill.
It corresponds to your feelings.
Yes, yes. So, we are given so many things. Like he says, need of most of the varieties of beings in the universe, entire universe. I can enjoy. An entire universe I can hate. Can you believe that? Like, I can hate that planet. For some reason, I'm making a research and it's sitting just in front of the object I'm trying to investigate, right? It's blocking my sight, let's assume. I can hate this planet. Like, I'm just a dust in the universe.
Or you would be amazed by it.
Or, yes, I can be amazed by a planet. I mean, look at this. It's like a human being related to sun, the planet. Wow. The planet there for me. I can encompass it from one aspect. And then I realize there are many other aspects I fail to encompass. Like, it's still more and more waiting for me. Alhamdulillah, like, such a richness, such a bounties. So yeah, this is what I want to say. Anyone else? Mariam, you're smiling?
She's agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. So anyone else, any comments? Or we can just continue reading?
Yeah, just to add, so through the flower that we get to realize that they're, for eternity, through the universe we get to realize our need for eternity. Right? So just as he wants a flower, so he wants the spring. I mean, the flower takes me. If I see what is the existence of the flower or the meaning behind it, then I desire the spring for myself. Just like the garden, through the garden I get to know what everlasting paradise is, because I want that forever. That's how through experience I get to develop that, my need for eternity.
I think there are two things in this paragraph. Like, man's nature is like you have infinite needs or wants or desires in terms of variety. And also for each variety, you have an endless wants. So it's like a two-dimensional world, which eventually you describe it with like infinity.
Yes. So are you like emphasizing the fact that,
for example, we love, but there's no end to it. Like, you love a flower, you love the galaxy. It's like it stretches out to the whole universe. And the same thing like with another feeling, like sadness, for example. In terms of like the degree that you can feel that feeling.
Yes. There is
no limit to it. There is no limit to it, like any of the feelings or the emotions that you can experience. Yeah. And like you also discover something new about yourself that you never knew before. And that kind of to me shows also like the variety that like it's just so many that sometimes you don't even know yourself that you have it.
And you realize that you cannot know yourself, like not in a pessimistic way.
There's no end to it. Yeah.
There's no end to it. Just as he longs to see a friend, so does he long to see the all-beauteous one of glory. From one aspect, like you have this certainty to meet him. Like every time you miss your friend, you know deep down you will meet
the loneliness for someone else.
All beauteous one of glory. Just like in the 18th verse, he was saying the creation, a flower is beautiful, so it is certain that there is a prophet, right? Or even further, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the prophet. I guess just like this, when you miss a friend, like you miss a friend, therefore you will meet the all beauteous one of glory. The fact that you can miss a friend is the evidence that you will meet the beauteous one. The fact that you long for someone is an evidence that you will meet the most glorious of the friends. Just as in order to visit the one he loves, who lives somewhere else, he is in need for his beloved's door to be opened to him. So too, in order to visit the 99% of his friends who have traveled to the intermediate realm and so be saved from eternal separation, he needs to seek refuge at the court of an absolutely powerful one who will close the door of this huge world and open the door of the hereafter, which is an exhibition of wonders, and remove this world and establish the hereafter in its place. When you first read, it's as if like he's making jumps, like you missing a friend, and then he's talking about the hereafter. He's talking a flower, and then he's talking about the spring.
I think for here we can say like you just, since there is a beauty, there must be, Muhammad must be the messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Here he says, since you have that kind of comprehensive like desires that stretches out to the eternity, then there must be a hereafter.
Yes.
Almost.
And I guess, yes, we can follow in some other words his, let's say, prove this hypothesis, right? Says that, yes, there must be hereafter if you have this need. But from another perspective, we can also confirm it by being honest. Like, this is in you already. Like, every person you know, or your entire past, or the future that you cannot see, it's already with you. You, as he says, 99% of his friends who have traveled to the intermediate realm, he wants to visit them. This is true, like my past, my friends, my, I don't know, myself, like my youth.
Loved ones.
The loved ones. They're always with me. I don't forget them. Even if I forget, like, I know that they're somehow with me. I feel it. So I don't need to prove such a thing. I know it's there. I know this need is there. And I know what it takes to fulfill this need. I know that I need the absolute powerful one to fulfill this need. I already know that.
I guess if I pay attention, let's say I love my mom. What is it that I love in my mother? If I keep just asking to it, okay, on the surface, I enjoy that I am being treated with this much of mercy without waiting for any return. So these are the things that I love in there. But as I see that sometimes it's not that much of a constant love that I'm receiving. But then as I pay attention, where is this coming from? Is it really coming from this woman?
This lady.
This lady. But as I keep thinking about that, then I see that the thing that I love is an eternal mercy, which is being manifested there, if I pay attention to it. And even if I ask just flip side and say that, who is it that loves mercy? Is it really me who is loving the mercy? Or also the love that I am now experiencing is a manifestation of an eternally beloved one. So it is like he is the one that loves, he is the one that is beloved. Now that from this, any example, if I pay attention to it, I would see that, yes, the very same experience takes me to this eternal aspect of it, because the thing that I love, that I am engaging with, is limited, which is not satisfying me. yet it is very much attractive to me. So it's like an invitation to me for the ultimate beloved one.
I guess we have to close the discussion now.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين.